Now we turn to new reaction from former Miss Universe Alicia Machado. She's standing by her assertions Donald Trump made disparaging comments about her 20 years ago. Now here's what she told my colleagues at Telemundo.
I have the truth in my mind and in my heart, and that is a distraction. You know, he has a real problems. My experience with the candidate 20 years ago was true.
Joining us now, Victoria DeFrancesco, MSNBC contributor, professor at the University of Texas Center for Mexican-American Studies. How are you?
Good morning, Ari, or good afternoon to you.
Well, it's good morning somewhere. It's morning in America somewhere, as Ronald Reagan has been famously paraphrased. You look at her reaction there. You, of course, have been writing about Donald Trump's problems here, which are very intersectional. There are some issues with women, and we see that in the polling. There are some issues with Latinos. You're saying this is basically shameful and also bad politics. Why?
Well, first of all, women vote, Ari. If there's one thing that we have consistently been doing more than men for the past 50 years is turning out. In 2012, 10 million more women turned out than men. And you add on to that the gender gap. So women have been leaning toward the toward the Democratic Party for decades, and Republican candidates know this. They want to close that gap, and Donald Trump is just making it worse. You know, there was a brief moment, Ari, in the campaign when I thought, okay, Donald Trump is going to try to close that gap. He's putting forward propositions about 6 weeks paid maternity leave, about tax credits for child care. I mean, really good stuff. Yeah. But then he comes out and starts insulting women, Latinas, low-wage workers with his comments about Miss Housekeeping. So, I mean, you know, one step forward, 12 steps back.
Well, yeah, and the argument would be there that the policy apparatus of his campaign cannot keep up with his mouth. So they are running some of that outreach, as you mentioned. Here's a new ad, for example, on child care with Ivanka.
The most important job any woman can have is being a mother, and it shouldn't mean taking a pay cut. I'm Ivanka Trump, a mother, a wife, and an entrepreneur. Donald Trump understands the needs of a modern workforce. My father will change outdated labor laws so that they support women and American families.
I'll give you my observation, and then I'd love to hear yours. What I see there is some woman-splaining, if you will. We see Donald Trump being sold to women, but he's not allowed to talk, which might be the best strategy for them. So he's on camera, but he's being narrated, described, and sort of put in these scenes without him ever saying anything about the child care policy.
I love it, Ari. I mean, look, we saw this at the convention, at the Republican convention a couple of months ago, where Ivanka tried to introduce this softer, more approachable side to Donald Trump. But then the campaign is schizophrenic. You see the Ivanka Trump side of Donald Trump, and you see his policy propositions. But then we see his tweets at 3 a.m. in the morning talking about Alicia Machado. So it's not going to work when dad is up at 3 in the morning, even though if his daughter is trying to say all these nice things about him.
Right, and the other piece with Alicia Machado and a lot of the subtext is how he relates to Latin American voters, immigrants, what he calls undocumented or illegal immigrants, right? All of that and how that plays out. There's new Nevada polling here that's showing Donald Trump is up 8 points in that state among white voters, which might sound good. The problem, as you know, and as your research is focused on, is that we have an expanding Latino electorate. He's down 30 points among non-white voters in Nevada, and that makes him on pace to lose that state and others with a similar demographics.
Absolutely. So in Nevada, we see one of the fastest growing Latino populations. And as a swing state, because of that Latino vote, I think we're going to see it swing blue. And we're also seeing states like Arizona, who have been traditionally red states, starting to swing into that light red, purple area because of that Latino mobilization as a result of being angry. Because, Ari, he's called Latinos rapists, drug dealers. Now he's disparaging Latinas as being housekeepers. I mean, that is not a way to win friends and win voters.
All right, Victoria, thank you very much for joining. As always, I'll see you again out on the trail.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ari.
As we look